I'm Jess Dakotas.
And I'm Nick Koziel. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world. Welcome back, everyone, to That Sounds Terrifying. I'm super excited to kind of be back in the studio with Jess because we got some good stories. We're bringing
Mhm.
back an old kind of clip from one of the beginning shows where we're going to do Jess's Guess. And Jess has a really creepy story that's freaking her out. So I'm ready to be freaked out too.
I don't I don't like it, but I'm gonna read it. Okay. So I follow this thing on Instagram, and I don't know if I can say it, so I just won't say the name, but it basically follows military families
Mhm.
and their creepy stories. They have like because a lot of military bases are super haunted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um Crazy haunted. If you think of all that energy that's going in and out constantly, there's constantly different families moving. There's a lot of strife. There's a lot of
Yeah.
worry. That all culminates, right?
Mhm.
So, the bases are quite haunted, and this one happens to be from Hawaii.
Mhm.
And so, this one really scared me when I read it, because I can like picture it and envision it. So, if you're able to visualize things, I don't know, maybe you don't want to visualize this, but um,
Yeah.
without further ado. It's our catchphrase here.
Yeah.
My husband woke up last night and went into the kitchen for a snack. A little girl in a white dress with black hair was sitting cross legged on the floor near our front door. He said that she looked like Samara from The Ring. If you're not familiar with that or have never seen The Ring, she had like black hair over her face and she's very scary looking, and I hate it.
Yes. Quite unsettling.
Yeah. The room got cold. This is the fifth time he's seen a child ghost in the last 6 months. Always a different child. Every other time has been outside. He gets freezing cold and starts to shake. The first time that I posted on here in October, he said that he saw a child and our black cat was found dead the next morning in the same area that he saw the ghost. I'm at a loss with what to do. My husband was raised very religious and would never think that ghosts are real. In fact, it's something that he's made fun of me for in the past. Well, maybe he deserves it. He's a 6'2", 260-pound bodybuilder and not scared of much. This is terrifying him. He said that he's scared to get out of bed now at night. Also, last week we woke up with flies covered and we woke up with flies covering the entire floor of our living room. Then they were
Gross.
gone the next day. Yeah. This morning, after the little girl incident, the flies are back. Does anyone have any advice on what to do or a similar story? Yes. Uh,
Get out.
go, yeah, go anywhere else but there.
Yeah.
Um, but also, if you're that sounds to me like, for lack of a better term, I will use the term demonic.
Mhm.
That sounds demonic. That's a very negative entity that is torturing this guy,
Mhm.
you know, um, for
Or even
whatever
maybe this
reason.
even maybe the souls of those children too, you
If
know?
those are real children, it
Right.
sounds to me like they're not. I think that they're probably demons,
Mhm.
again, for lack of a better term. Um, I think that they're just very negative energy, and it's pretending to be different things. But like the fact that it killed a cat, the fact that there's flies and stuff. If they're
Mhm.
smelling anything like sulfuric or anything like that, like get
Yeah.
out. But I mean, what to do in that situation?
Yeah.
Uh, go get blessed. Like whatever your religion is, whatever, or like even if you're not religious, let's say you're an atheist, right?
Mhm.
Um, go to whatever your family of origin identifies as
Mhm.
and find clergy there to put positivity and blessings back in. to your life, your work, your home, and bless it all. Because and it can be any of the it can be whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um and that will help, but you still have to leave. You have to get
Yeah.
out
And
because
that's
it's
not always
oppression.
easy. Yeah, that's not always easy in that particular, like when you talk about military families living on a base and
Mhm,
like, and these are supposed to be tough individuals that, aren't afraid of anything.
mhm,
And trying to share that with your like can go into your supervising officer and say, I need a
mhm.
different unit because yeah, my place is haunted.
At this point, though, I wonder if it's just well known because you don't get to that level of haunting without someone knowing, like
Yeah,
they must know that that's a haunted unit or whatever home,
whatever.
whatever it is. Yeah.
So
You
what
don't
did you do to your supervising officer to get assigned
t
to that unit? That's it.
Right, yeah, that's probably scarier.
Not only
But
are you
also
on latrine duty, but you're in the unit.
yeah, but also, I mean, like, if it's, the area and he's only seen it outside, then, like, it's probably going into
That's
all the
true.
homes.
That's true.
Um, and maybe he's more sensitive than others all of a sudden for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Something's created an attachment, and it's oppressing him, and that's not good. So, I don't know, but he's gotta figure that out, and if they have no, recourse, I don't know, I would just put myself and my family first because nothing
Mhm.
good comes from negativity like that being in your space.
Yeah.
And you can get angry and mad and, like, protect yourself. You can do that,
Mhm.
like, get out, leave us alone. You can go get, like, holy water, blessings, salt, anything like that to protect yourself. And I'm not saying that those are, like, it depends again, like, on the level of and the power of whatever that entity is and
Yeah.
the energy level of it. But, you can do these little things to help keep it at bay, you know,
Yeah.
if you
No,
can't
I
exercise it.
and I thought you were going in a different direction with your comment. I thought you were talking about how sometimes these things actually you start to take on those
You
energies,
can.
right? Right.
Yeah.
And that's a fear too, like it affects your relationships and you start to have,
Mhm.
that oppressive behavior kind of goes into you and separates you from your family and your support structure. So
100%.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out
And with
ways.
that, I'm not religious, but you know what? I'm gonna cross
Right.
myself. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I hate
and
talking about demonic stuff. Ugh.
well, and I also know that you hate this particular thing because, like, way back when we were starting this podcast, I had asked you
Yeah.
a couple questions about, like, well, what's the scariest thing for you? Because I was thinking, oh, we'll put it into the logo somehow or whatever.
Mhm.
And you told me that ring girl.
I
So
hate her. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So early cartoonified Jess was related to that ring
Mhm.
that ring
I think
chick.
she's still in the logo, isn't she? She's, like, behind me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like that
Ugh.
ours. We just
Yeah, that
didn't
is
make.
my least favorite. I hate
So.
the idea of I hate children ghosts and I hate demons or demonic anything. It's too low level and
Mhm.
it's, like, really
Yeah.
yucky to me. I don't like it.
I don't think there's too
Mm-mm.
many people that would say that they like demons, but
Some people like
some do.
demonologists, they're
Mhm.
very comfortable in that space, Demonologists are very, like, um, they're just more they're able to not let it shake their core,
Mhm.
and they're able to, like, play in that playground and be okay, most of them. I am not. I don't wanna I don't wanna be in that playground. I don't wanna know that neighborhood. I don't you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, keep me
that's
out.
so low level. I don't
Mhm.
want it, and you can, like, bring that stuff home, and I don't know enough about it, to be honest,
Mhm.
because I don't want to. Um, so, like, if anybody's ever like, "Oh, we think we have, like, this is going on," I'm like, "No, thank you. I'm not checking it out. I'm not going to that house. I don't
Nope,
wanna be there.
not helping you.
Mm-mm.
Hey,
No."
Josh, want another listing?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
not a fan.
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. That was
Mm,
super creepy. I'm not a big fan of that kind of ghost or entity either. So, awesome. Are you ready for Jess's guess
I'm ready to guess as Jess.
as Jess? Good. And hopefully not as a demon entity. Let's not have that happen. All right. So I got two
That's a pretty face
stories.
that I made.
I got two stories for you, and the shakeup about this one, it's a little different. The last time we did this, it was like Chat GPT. This time it is an allegedly. There's one that is allegedly a true tale, and
Okay.
then one that I have created. So,
Okay.
all right. So at
Uh-huh.
random, I will tell each of them. This one's called The Imaginary Friend. I was young, maybe about 5 years old at the most, and we lived in a two-story apartment in Ohio with my mother and my father. It was before my sister was born. I'm around 26 now, and there isn't much of my childhood that I can clearly remember. However, over the years, something has become quite clear that I had an imaginary friend. I remember that distinctly. It was a boy. His name was Tommy, and I remember that I would lock myself in my room for hours and play. We'd jump on the bed, play with dolls. I'd be talking to him. But that's the extent of what I can really remember. It wouldn't be years until later we moved from that apartment when I was older that my mom and dad would share a story with me that haunts me to this day. They knew I had an imaginary friend. According to my parents, I started to doing bad things, things I didn't normally do um, prior to having this imaginary friend. I would have accidents on myself, pee on the floor in the room like a dog. I would lock my cats up in a trunk and sat outside the door in the hallway. My attitude and the way I talked to my mother seemed to get worse too. When confronted about my actions and things that I have done, I would always blame it on my cousin Amber. My mother, in particular, has always told me that she hated my room in that apartment. She hated to be in there by herself. I'd always feel like something was watching her. And this day in particular, things got really strange. My father had come home from working a third shift. He had worked overtime all that week, and all he wanted to do was go to sleep. He walked up the stairs and past my room, and the door was shut. And my dad said he could hear me playing in my room, but seemed to be with another kid. He heard two distinct voices. I suppose that I could have easily been replaying that to myself and talking back and forth, but he claims that our voices overlapped and it was clearly two different children. We were laughing and playing and just being kids. He called my mother to my room so she could tell that neighbor boy to keep it down so he could go to sleep. But my mother insisted she didn't hear anybody else with me, and there was no other kids in the room except me. Sure enough, when they checked, I was alone. Now, not long after that, we ended up moving away from that apartment, and my parents claimed it was like flipping a switch. As soon as we moved out, I no longer had an imaginary friend. I can't sit here and tell you it was a ghost because I just don't know. But years later, a friend of my dad's moved into the same apartment with a daughter and a son, and they knew nothing about the experience at this home. Imagine how my parents and I felt when they learned that their daughter took my old room, and upon a few weeks moving in, she had her own imaginary friend named Tommy.
Right.
So that was the first one.
Okay.
All right.
Hmm.
So, and you want to talk about any reactions, or you just want to go into the second one?
Just go on to the second one so it's fresh.
Okay. So this second story is called The Outcast. I was always known as the weird kid growing up. Everyone would make fun of me. I had almost no friends, and I was often mistreated by my peers. One day, my mom and dad took me out to the country to visit some friends of theirs, some work connection. And to my joy, it was outside of my school district. No one would know me. And although I lacked a lot of confidence, I felt like I could play it cool enough to not be the complete outcast. We arrived in this beautiful, sprawling mansion out in the middle of nowhere with these amazing grounds. It had like topiaries and a maze of hedges like you see in the movies. When I got inside, there were about 10 or 11 kids there about my age, and they were having a party for one of their birthdays. I came into the room and immediately got scared because they all turned looking straight at me, almost through me. But to my surprise, they all warmed up and welcomed me. I felt like the member of a gang for the first time. We did practically typical party things all day, and when it got into the evening, we decided it's time to play hide and seek. In that mansion, I mean, there were so many places to hide. You could easily get lost in there. So it was so big. I even found a room with a bunch of those animal trophies, like a stuffed rhino and a lion in a ferocious pose. I was the new guy, so I was it first. And I went around trying to find the people. And it was pretty darn hard because it was so humongous. But after a while, I was starting to find people. And we played in such a way that when you found someone, everyone joined the group and tried to find the people along with you. Then it was my turn to hide. So we started to run around and get away from the person counting 34. You could hear it fading as you got further and further away. So I ended up alone and with this other girl who's just a little bit younger than me. She looked kind of scared to hide on her own, so I said we should hide together, and she gave me a big smile. I wasn't sure about the rules, but it seems like it was a good idea at the time. So we went ahead together, and I remember even holding her hand at one point. First time I ever got to hold a girl's hand. We found this old wardrobe and we got in. It was so cold. I remember saying to her, "Man, why is it so cold?" She kind of just brushed it off and didn't say much. She whispered quietly that they might hear us, so I stopped talking. It was a really long time and no one came around. Finally, one kid did open the door and I thought we were caught. Opened it slowly, moved the coats aside, but they didn't see us, and we kind of laughed quietly after he left. And then we heard everybody yelling, "It's time for cake! It's time for cake!" So we came out of the hiding space and came back to the party. One of the kids said, "I can't believe you were hiding there. I looked in there, but no one was in there. There was nothing in there." It's like, "No, we were hiding behind the coats. And we were laughing because you didn't see us." But that's when I noticed the kids started looking at me really strangely. And one of the kids said, "What do you mean we?" "Me and the little girl I was hiding with." And they all stared again. Birthday boy said, "We had just found everyone but you." So that was the end.
That's the end. There's
Yeah,
no like, I looked around, the little girl wasn't there. Like,
no. That's the end. Sorry.
okay, 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 all right, okay.
So what do you
So
think, Jess?
should we take a minute and let the listeners like get their idea of which one they think
Yeah,
is one that
yeah,
you wrote versus one that's on the internet?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's give them a few seconds to kind of think about it. Which one? We should have the Jeopardy theme playing, right?
I know. That always distracted me though. I feel like I wouldn't have been able to think.
Oh, with the Jeopardy theme? It's like that
Yeah,
pressure.
like if
The
you were
pressure
on
theme?
Jeopardy. Yeah.
I would
Not
always
that I
forget
would
to put it in
ever
the form of a question, you know.
I'm not smart enough to do Jeopardy. I don't care about like trivia like that so much.
No.
Like I hate that's what you know how I feel about trivia. I hate trivia.
Well, and it's funny to me because like I would be that guy, like, Turd Ferguson with like negative 300,000, and like you can't even
Your
get
mother,
negative three.
Trebek.
Your mother. Oh yeah, that
The Sean Connery one.
Sean Connery. Yep. Yeah.
That's
That's not what your mother said last night, Trebek. Right?
yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I can't do Sean Connery, but
Yeah.
that's an
So
SNL skit, and right? That was
yeah,
SNL.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was always
Yeah.
fun.
Making
Will
sure it
Will
wasn't one of the
Ferrell.
other ones.
Yeah,
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 that was
yeah,
funny. Yeah, it was Will Ferrell as Sean
yeah.
Connery.
Will
Yeah.
Ferrell. Well, Will Ferrell was the Alex Trebek in that, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, good times.
Uh, yeah. So, okay. Both are very good stories, by the way, so kudos to you. Um,
Thanks.
my guess is that you wrote the second one.
Yep.
Okay.
Second one.
Good.
What gave me away?
Um,
Was it one of your
I
imaginary friends coming to you and telling you it's the second one?
yeah, there's a ghost that was
Yeah.
telling me it's the second one. This
Yeah.
one. No. I don't know, call it intuition. Uh
You do have that.
no, I don't know. It just I feel like there were some Nick-isms in there where like
I
I was
was
like,
gonna say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Some Nickisms in there.
Nick-isms. There were some Nick-isms. I'm like, yeah, that's how he talks. So
Yeah.
but that's a
Damn
good
it.
story. That's a really good creepy story.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, the first one actually I found in two different places, weirdly enough.
Mm.
One of them was on Reddit, and then there was another like it wasn't creepy pasta, it was something else like that. And
Hmm.
the big distinct difference, and I think I shared this off the air with you, was one of them had like a name attached to it, and the other one was like there was
Hmm.
no name. But it was like
Hmm.
almost word for word the same thing. So someone must have reposted it because it was two different people. So
Yeah, the other thing is that I've heard those stories so many times about,
yeah,
like, people that really did have imaginary friends that were actually real,
yeah,
ghosts, entities, whatever.
yeah,
Usually, if they made them do bad things, um, that's to me, like, again, demonic, negative, whatever.
right.
Um, but there have been so I just read this the other day. God, I don't know what it was on. Um I'm just gonna retell it really quick because it was really
Yeah,
fascinating, and it's about imaginary friends.
cool.
I thought this was so cool. So this woman said that, she was, like, getting her daughter ready for bed, and, her daughter her daughter looked at her and she said, "Hey, mommy." And she said, "Hey," and she said, "I'm so glad you're my mommy," or something like that, and she said,
Hmm.
"Do you remember me, mommy?"
Oh wow.
And and she said, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I'll always remember you. Of course, you're my daughter. I love you." She says, "No. Do you remember me from when you were a little girl?" And then she goes on, the mom goes on to say, like, she was like, "I didn't know what she was talking about." Um, and the little girl, the daughter starts to say, "I used to play with you at your grandma's house, and we would hide in the cupboard, and you
Hmm.
would count to 10 or whatever, and they would play."
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, the mom goes, like, and back into her memories, and she all like, totally forgot about this friend,
Yeah.
that she'd play with at her grandma's house all the time. And she said that, she remembered playing with this little girl. They'd play hide and seek, and she had pigtails, braided pigtails, and, like, wore a pinafore and something, like, just
Hmm.
very old school, and but she would always love to play with her at her grandma's house. And then it flashed back to the daughter, and the daughter said, "Mommy, all of a sudden you couldn't see me anymore. You got older and you couldn't see me anymore, so I asked God, could I please be her daughter?"
Hmm.
And God said, "That's a great idea, and here I am." And I thought that
That's
was such
awesome.
a cool story. I was
Yeah,
like, "That's
that's
so
awesome.
cool." Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really
I don't
cool.
know. Yeah, I loved that story. I wish I could remember where I read that. It was, no, but it was a really I loved that,
Yeah.
and the idea of it, like, that souls and spirits have that kind of, like, ability, like, some kind of ability to make our own destiny and to say,
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, I wanna come back and
Yeah.
I wanna be with them. That's who I wanna
Yeah.
be with," or whatever.
It's kind of like
Um,
we've talked about this movie before on the show, though, What Dreams May Come, right? Like where
yeah,
they decide to go back to kind of rediscover each other soulmate wise and all that other stuff.
yeah,
So, um,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, painting your own destiny.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
did you ever have an invisible friend growing up?
No.
Yeah, I was not on that if I did, I don't remember it, and my parents
Yeah.
never talked about it. Um, I know my kids were super addicted to the show My Big Big Friend. Have you ever heard of that? It's kinda like
Mm-mm.
yeah, your kids are a little younger than mine, but there's, like, a theme song to it. It's like, "My friend, my big, big friend, my good friend," and it's just a cute little show, and it's all about these kids that have an invisible friend that they all get together and they play and they go through different challenges and stuff and the adults can't see them and stuff. But my kids loved that show. So I don't remember them having any invisible friends either growing up, but if they did, it was
Yeah,
probably one of those characters from that show. Um, so but yeah, I
interesting.
I would not get your kids into that. So I know in the day of
Yeah, no,
YouTube
it
and
also just
Netflix.
sounds creepy.
Yeah, well, it's
It doesn't
addictive.
sound.
One of those addictive things.
Is it? I guess I'll look it up just to see it, but, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. No, neither of my kids have shown interest, and I didn't have an imaginary friend. I had a friend who did.
Mhm,
They all had names, and then she said as soon as she moved out of her house, and moved to my area growing up, she said that she didn't have her friends anymore. But
mhm,
that I don't know what if there was anything to that or not. Um, I feel like I had more of a familiar,
mhm,
which was my cat. Like, I growing up, I had 2 cats,
mm,
and they were always with me. When I was at my house, they were with me. Just
mhm,
they would take turns being with me. They would sleep with me. They would make sure I was okay. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
had cats.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what I had, instead of imaginary friends, but I always felt like protection, and even as an adult, when I look back on those cats, like, they weren't typical cats, they were I don't know, they were very gentle, very sweet,
Hmm.
not, not when you think of, like, cats being, like, abrasive or, like, not wanting to
Hmm.
be with you, they were more like dogs.
Yeah.
Um, and so but looking back to me, I feel like they protected me quite a bit from like the volatility that was in my home,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
we have several cats. We have a lot of cats, and my son is
Yeah.
very addicted to cats, and he's like the cat whisperer, and he carries like ever since he was little, he's been super into animals and like carries them everywhere. And the cat allows him to do whatever, like
Mhm. Yeah.
so I can relate to that. We were sort of dog people growing up, and I did have a dog when I was very young.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of a similar thing. We had this great bond that, the kid
Mhm.
and his dog has and stuff. But like for most of my young childhood, he had passed away, and so we didn't have animals. We had
Right.
birds that that my dad would sometimes clean the cage outside, and the bird would fly away. So we had birds that flew the
Had
coop,
birds.
flew the coop.
Mm.
But yeah,
Be
my
free.
I didn't really, like I said, I didn't have an imaginary friend, but my imagination was like a wild, like especially like stuffies and stuff like that all had different
Mhm.
personalities. And I
Mhm.
think I shared on the show that like I used to stack them up, and they would be my protection layer when I would go to sleep when I was
Yeah.
really young.
Yeah.
My kids are still appalled by that. So, but
Whatever. I mean,
this,
better the stuffies than you.
right? Let them get abducted.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
So, but the great story from you today. I really thought that that was crazy, and I love that you kind of braved your own terrifying fear of the ring girl. And thanks for listening to my tales. And so
Yeah, of course.
we want to hear from you guys, right? So,
Mhm.
like our audience, we've had several people come on the show that have all claimed to be like number one fans, right? So we want to have some more number one fans come on the show and
Some
share,
listeners,
right?
yeah, come on in. Just even
So
if you're not sure of your story, like, come on, just
yeah,
or we'll tell it for you. You can tell it to us and we'll relay it.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
like how we read stuff, you know, like how Nick has done with his dad, if you've listened to earlier podcasts. But we would love to have you on the show, and then you can listen to stories with us and stuff and give us your 2 cents.
Yeah.
Um, I've had people tell me that they'll like talk to us in the car, but obviously we can't hear you. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, I
it
definitely want to
come
hear
on
it.
and
And then
yeah,
like and
tell us.
share on, yeah, sorry, like and share on social, and then give us a few 5-star reviews too, because we want to move up in those rankings. So I
Yeah,
think it's
please.
about that time though, Jess.
Is that time?
I think so.
All right. Well, whether it's tequila or ghosts, keep your spirits up, everybody.